The Jeff Cameron Show on this Libations Friday, also known as the bonus hour. Let's do this thing. Let's go. Ready for Florida State baseball this weekend. Going to have beautiful weather for it, so it looks like. That's always good. You also have, of course, a Florida State basketball game that I don't know how many of you are going to want to watch. We're winding down the stretch there, kids. Hang in there, because this one is us against Duke, and it's a shame it's not here and that it's at Duke, 7 o'clock, Cameron Indoor in Durham, North Carolina, ACC Network. Hey, you want to watch Cooper Flagg? You want to see that kid? You want to see what it's about? This is, I don't know. You're an overwhelming underdog in the matchup. It's not going to be pretty. By the way, I looked it up because this is a little thing we do. FSU is 2-25 all time at Cameron Indoor. You remember the 68-67 upset in 07. Al Thornton, 21 points. I miss Al Thornton. God, what a player he was. Look him up, kids. Look him up. 2007, I guess, was a long time ago. Tony Douglas had 15 points. Good stuff. The 76-73 win at the buzzer, Michael Snare from Luke Laux. And it's a dime in 2012. That snapped Duke's 45-game home winning streak. So 2 memorable wins. I have watched the dime from Laux to Snare, 47 different angles, 100 times. It is one of the great moments in Florida State basketball history, given, what our program has been over the years and what that program has been and certainly was then. And little history lesson for those that many of you remember it, but I had just left my position as afternoon host at Clear Channel. We were at a contract impasse, and it was unfortunate, but that's the way things were going in that time. And I was signing my new deal with ESPN, and I was told back in those days when you could certainly enforce non-competes that I needed to go away for 6 months and become a consultant for another radio station in Panama City. And so I was. But the point is, of course, Florida State got that upset over Duke in that moment. I was watching the game in my home with my wife, and I threw her into the air. We were both so excited. Threw her into the air and caught her. I still remember that. And I don't know that I've been that excited about a Florida State victory really in any sport since. And that includes, I was just thinking about this today, looking up at these Florida State Duke numbers. And again, I'm not going to dwell on this game because we're going to get our heads kicked in. But I think I was more excited in the moment for that shot and that win and that reaction in that place than I've been just about in any other win for Florida State baseball, Florida State basketball, Florida State football. And you're going to say to yourself, wait a minute, Jeff, didn't you just say that win over Duke at Cameron, the snare shot on the dish from Laux, was in 2012? It was. Didn't we win the national championship in football in 2013 and weren't you there? I was, and yes. But I was stoic when we won the national championship in 2013. It's crazy. Tom will attest to this. I maintain to this day that I was happier for him than I was me, meaning the fan in us, because he had never got to see that. He had never been in person for something like that, and I had been at every one of Florida State's national championship games, win or lose. And I have been in attendance to see it play out in, say, 99. And I was there in 93. And so to see it through his eyes was kind of cool. And also winning in 2013, while we were euphoric, I think I was more excited maybe the next morning than I was that night. There was a lot of work to do that night. I was down on the field after the game. I've told the story of talking to Lawrence Dossie, watching the team get up onto the stage, standing on that field, and I was doing my best to take in the surroundings. And I went over, I was wearing a suit coat, and I went over to the stands to where our fans were and where the band was celebrating, and I dapped with people there and said hello. But we had to get into the locker room, and we were going to interview players and talk to coaches. And there was just, I remember there was a lot of work to be done before getting back to the hotel in Newport. And, there was this, you had stuff to do. You couldn't really be the fan that was inside of you. You had to be the worker. And it was cool. It was amazing. And it was awesome. But it was also very of the moment you're documenting, And that's why in 2012, working as a consultant during the non-compete 6 months, I was only a fan. I didn't have a day job to go to the next time. I knew I wasn't going to be able to talk about Florida State. I could do the choo-choo and I could do all the things, but I couldn't get on the air and talk about it. I could only be a fan. And also, Duke just didn't lose at home. And for us to do that and hit that shot in that moment, as improbable as it was, that led to a euphoria that I don't know that I've experienced since. By the way, two tallest teams in Division I men's basketball, if you include the walk-ons, both teams, by the way, if you look at the rosters, average 6'7.5". Also, really cool, the Noles with the upset over Notre Dame in women's basketball, and I couldn't ignore it. That was awesome. They get Latson back 23 points. Gordon adds 15. Timpson plays her best game with 22 points, 17 boards, 35 minutes. Noles control the glass. Talked about that in hour one. Pretty cool, especially since Notre Dame came into the matchup leading the ACC in rebounding at a plus 10 point whatever rebounds per game advantage, and Florida State wins the glass 43-40 and gets the win. Florida State women's basketball now 23-6, 13-4 in the ACC. Going to host Duke on Sunday at 6 o'clock at the TLC Double C. If Florida State wins over another ACC-ranked opponent, they get the double bye as either the 3 or 4 seed in the ACC tournament in Greensboro. They will also improve their seeding in the NCAA tournament, and they've had a hard time getting past the opening game these last 4 years. So give yourself every advantage, improve that seeding. The haves and the have-nots in women's basketball, while the margin is closed a little bit from yesteryear, is still distinctly different when you see highly ranked teams typically playing teams that are not so highly ranked. Those upsets from the not so highly ranked teams are kind of rare. So that's where we sit with basketball. And of course, the baseball series, Florida State heavily favored against Georgetown this weekend, and hopefully more dominant pitching. Hopefully a lot of young guys get to play. Hopefully we see them move on to what would it be, 11-0. They're getting wins where they're supposed to get wins, but they're getting guys a lot of time. And I'm still so excited about what I saw from BJ Gibson, man. I think that guy's going to be a good player. He's certainly all uniform, but get him those ABs where you can. Hopefully Max Williams is back healthy, but I'd find a way to work in BJ as much as I possibly could. I think he's going to be a ball player. All right, so Combine yesterday went well for Noles. Farmer had a good day. Zarier continues to have a good day, and he's going to interview well. I thought this was interesting. A couple things about what we learned yesterday at the Combine. So just big picture, Travis Hunter is a guy that obviously we're all intrigued by, and we all know Travis Hunter, and what could have been had Florida State been able to secure Travis Hunter. But I do want to – it is very rare that you see a player play both ways in the National Football League. And Travis Hunter is talking about playing both ways. He's talking about it openly. he basically won the Heisman because he played both receiver and cornerback. Some people think he might be the number one pick in the April draft. So he's got a sky-high ceiling, a lot of people believe. But here's what I find interesting, and he's been asked about it a lot. All right. Quote, I'm going to play both. Goes on to say, look, it's not my job to figure it out, meaning if a team wants him to play one side of the ball more than the other or only one side of the ball. He said, but I'd like to play on both sides of the ball. If they give me the opportunity to play both ways, I'm playing on both sides of the football. Now, if he is selected with one of the first 5 picks in the draft, and most people think he will be, he'll get a guaranteed 4-year contract. It will be worth in the neighborhood of $36 million. Could be as high as $43 million. No matter whether they're going to make him a corner or a receiver. First things first. If he is capable of being a lockdown corner, it is my opinion that that's what I would try to make him if I were his coach. They're hard to find. Receivers are so good these days. It's hard to find a guy that is a true lockdown corner, and it changes everything about how you can play defensively if you have one. Very few teams do, but the ones who do are afforded a lot of diversity on defense. They can do a lot of different things that teams who have to have help, can't do. So I would look in that direction. Other people have said the opposite. That's just where I would lean if he is a lockdown corner. I'm curious to see the willingness of a coach, a director of player personnel, a GM. Is there a willingness to allow him to play both sides of the ball? It's a huge, huge deal if you can do it. If you can be great on both sides of the ball, it's very rare that you see a player that is truly great on both sides of the ball. You'll see a guy who is maybe one of the premier players at, say, corner, and then they have packages for him either in special teams or perhaps they want to utilize that speed in the passing game, so they have packages for him at wide receiver. But we don't see a lot of guys go from one to the other series to series. I'm playing defense gets off the field, and now I'm lined up with the offense at wide receiver for the series on offense. Okay, that didn't go so well. We got a first down, couldn't get a second first down. Now we're going to punt, and I'm back on the field to play corner for the defensive series. If you do that, you're talking about a guy who is attempting to play in the National Football League, the most physical league. It's not college. This is the creme de la creme, the beasts, these preternaturally gifted athletes. Everywhere you look, you'd have to play 130 plays or thereabouts. He says, I'm built different, quote unquote. I'm built different. I can do it. I've always been able to do it. I can do it. He certainly did it in college. And he thinks that he can do it. He thinks that he's capable. In fact, he went on to say when he was asked about this, nobody's ever really done it. I know I can do it. All right. So here's the thing about that. He is saying that partly because some believe that it would increase his value if he misses no time due to injury. Then this is a guy you would have to look in. Look, the average salary of the 5 highest paid wide receivers in the NFL was $32.2 million in 2024. That's more than $10 million above the average salary of the highest paid cornerbacks at $21.89. So look, he's going to say, all right, I'd like the most amount of money possible, but why don't we work this thing out where you recognize that I'm truly unique and we find some combination of the two, and I'm making more than the average salary of a receiver, worlds more than the average salary of a corner. It's tough because If you miss time due to injury, it's twice as problematic because he's your starting corner and starting receiver. And if you play him as both, it seems to stand to reason that he's twice as likely to get hurt. And now you've got a problem because you're affecting two positions. It's why a lot of people believe they will not let him do it. But oddly enough, I've always been of this mindset, and I'm of this mindset when it comes to running backs. I'm of this mindset really for almost any position. I get that everybody in an ideal set of circumstances would like to draft a guy at any position and have him for 8, 10, 12 years in the National Football League. The reality is much different than that. You don't normally get that. You don't ordinarily have a guy that you can trust will be there a decade from now for you. The league is brutal, and it weeds people out very quickly. And if you slip even a little bit, you get exposed. It's my job every year to draft over you, just like it is now in college to recruit over you. This is the way of the world. It is kill or be killed, smoke or get smoked, however you want to phrase it. And there are some positions that last a little bit longer than others. But if I have an elite running back, and I draft him in out of college, he was a prolific runner. And I know what he is. But I also know there's tread on the tire, and that tread shall wear very quickly. I've never cared. That's what the money's for. That's what the money's for. I'm running you into the ground. I'm a coach. I don't have long. I will get fired. As a GM in the NFL and as a coach in the NFL, you are hired to be fired. It's going to happen. There's going to be a season full of injuries, and you are going to go 5-12, and then you are instantly going to be on the hot seat. And if that thing doesn't get turned around, or the quarterback that your GM insisted that you drafted isn't the guy, and I've got to start over, I might get one do-over at that position if it's the GM's fault. Maybe one. Sometimes I don't even get that. Sometimes the next guy comes in and he goes, I want you both out. You failed miserably. Peace. So I'm not really worried about your longevity. That is you and your agent's job, and I understand how that's going to work. But when I draft you, I got you. You can go nowhere. I've got you for 4, technically 5 if I opt in for the extra year. So if you pick up the option, you got him 5 years at best. And if Travis Hunter is that guy and is that great, think how I can market him. Think what I could do. Think of the jersey sales, the ticket sales. I want to see it. I'm selfish that way. But I even think as a GM, I'd do it. At the very least, I would have packages for that guy on offense if I'm going to make him a corner. And if I'm going to make him a receiver, you know, he's going to be part of something we do defensively as well. I just doubt we're really ever going to get a situation where they'll let him truly be a two-way player. It's mythical to see a two-way player. Dion is a guy that, you know, I watched return kicks, obviously return punts. This is a guy that was, when he was with the Cowboys, getting opportunities at wide receiver, as well as obviously being a lockdown corner. Dion is probably, one of the greatest, if not the greatest athletes I've ever seen in the league in his ability to do that. I mean, others might argue certain other guys at the size. Bo Jackson might be the greatest athlete I've ever seen. But in terms of his ability to play two ways, Dion is kind of, there have been a few guys, but not that many. And really none in my lifetime that were elite players that were truly two-way players. That every weekend you tune in and you're like, there he is. He's in the vast majority of the snaps or possessions on offense, vast majority of the possessions on defense. Hell, I mean, Hunter, you would think could be great on special teams too. You wouldn't waste it. That's probably where I draw the line. But, man, I hope they do it. And there are people criticizing him saying, don't say that. Don't keep insisting that you want to play both ways. I don't know how they believe that hurts him. I don't think it does. In an era where a lot of guys opt out of playing anything if they can, I have a guy who's telling us, I want to play every down. I want to be on the field all the time. I certainly like the mentality. It's Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. More in a moment. This is a fun year to be a GM in the National Football League. Per the discussion we just had regarding whether or not you would have Travis Hunter be a two-way player and what's your philosophy on that. But then there's all of the stuff that we've got, going on at the combine right now. I read incessantly about I love the draft. If you're not into the draft, then you probably hate when we do these segments. But you know, there's something to the male soap opera of the NFL where you have front offices and you get to know the principal actors, you know who the GMs are and what their MOs are, you know the coaches, you know the fan base, you know what they're about. And in some cases, you even know the owners and, the good ones and the bad ones and the ones that are willing to spin and the ones who meddle too often. And you incorporate all that into a storyline. But the other part of that is that you always have these really vital decisions that have to be made every offseason. And you're guessing in some of these cases. Does the guy have anything left in the tank? Is he still a viable player if he's a running back at the end of his career, entering his 30s, whatever it might be? You do the same thing with quarterbacks, though, right? Like if a quarterback has an injury, say the way Carson Beck does, and had he come out, now he's going to play this year at Miami, and they're asking that question as well. That's a quandary, right? That's a serious injury on your elbow. We'll see whether he still has the NFL zip that he had prior to that injury. I wish him well, I suppose. I don't wish him well on the field in terms of winning games, but I hope he's healthy. I don't want to see anybody get hurt and lose a career because of it. But you have situations where GMs have to decide about a player. Look at the situation for Brock Purdy right now, who's also had elbow issues. And you're going to watch a guy like Brock Purdy to find out whether or not he's healthy enough to sign to a long-term deal. And the more you read about that situation, if you go look right now at the top tier quarterbacks and what they're worth, how much you can get for them, or what you have to pay them if you're going to sign one, it's the very best in the league are making more than $50 million a year. So we all ask ourselves in that situation, do you really believe Brock Purdy is worth $50 million a year? Most of us would say no. Okay, well, what if you believe he's worth more of $40 million a year? All right, well, what's the agent going to say? Well, the agent's going to say the franchise tag this year will be in the neighborhood of $41 million. So if you don't want to pay him, if you franchise him, you're going to have to pay him $41 million. And you know what? If you don't want to pay him this year and you let him play out the rest of his rookie deal, you're going to franchise him next year. And that means you're going to pay more because when you franchise him next year, it'll be around $45 or $46 million. So why don't we come to an agreement somewhere in the middle here? Why don't we figure out? And the GM might come back and say, all right, well, we don't think he's a $50 million a year guy. And what you have to decide, and this is what makes it difficult, is can Brock Purdy get roughly $45 million a year on the open market? Can he get it on the street? Can he get $45 million a year if you just said, go look around and see what you can find? If the answer is yes and you're worried you're going to lose him, then, you probably come to the table and work out some sort of a deal. The great debate right now involving him is he a system guy? Well, first you ask, is he healthy? But is he a Shanahan system guy? Or is he unique? Is he gifted? Do you think he's good? I've never seen a guy who has been, as productive as he's been, I shouldn't say that. We get this a lot at this position. We talk about game managers and the like. A lot of times the question is, okay, is he doing something outside of the system that suggests he could win you a game, or is he simply the byproduct of a really good offense with really good players around him, with balance in the run game that makes it difficult for teams to load up to stop him or a singular thing, right? Or is he the kind of player that when things break down can make plays? Is he the kind of player that goes above and beyond what the play called for, what the yardage should have been? Is this a guy who gets through all of his reads? Is this a guy who pre-snap is special, knows what he's looking at, has a great brain for the game, is a guy that checks you into right plays and right protections all the time, has an uncanny knack for all of those things? And the debate around Purdy is constantly, is he just Shanahan, really good OC. A guy that's made a lot of quarterbacks, some who are not uniquely gifted, look really good. Is that who he is? Or is he better than that? Is he somebody who at a very young age handled the responsibility well, played big in big games, made big throws, proved that he could handle the moment when the pressure was at its greatest? I still wrestle with it. This is where it would be fun. This is where you'd go lay in bed at night, toss it and turn and do I really want to give Brock Purdy $50 million a year? Do I want to give Brock Purdy a long-term deal? Can I work it out? Can I go to Brock Purdy and say, why don't we do this? Why don't we figure out a deal where I'll sign you to a 3 or 4 year deal, a 3-year deal, let's say. And right now, the money's going to average in the neighborhood of $40 million, because that's what we think you are. You're kind of a $35-40 million a year quarterback. Fun numbers to talk about, right? But I'm not sure you're that guy yet. And you've had some injury troubles. So I'll tell you what we'll do. We're going to incentivize the hell out of it. Agents hate that. Agents will threaten. Agents will come back and say, no way, no how. You're not doing that to my guy. You're not going to incentivize this deal. We need that money up front. You're going to, I don't know. Tell you what, we'll put some reasonable goals together out there, such as if you win the division, such as if you win a playoff game, such as if you win the MVP, if you throw for more than 4,500 yards, if you have a touchdown to interception ratio that is, whatever you want it to be, then you'll get this $2 million. Maybe you'll get a $5 million. If we go to the Super Bowl, you get an extra 10, and now you're well over the 50. Hell, you're one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league, and everybody's happy. They'll say no to that, and ultimately you would have to say, go shop it, baby. Go shop it. Go see what you can find. I think the funniest thing about telling guys to find out your value. Go find your value. It's got to be a tough pill to swallow. Think of your job where you're at now. You think you're worth more money. We all think we're worth more money. Maybe we are. Maybe we are. Maybe the skill set that you possess is one that is valued by other companies. And you've heard about other companies paying people who you think aren't as talented as you, or maybe that you're equal to, at least in terms of what you're able to do within your given field. And you know that another company has a position open, but you've got a good deal here. You've liked working here, and they've treated you right. And, you don't really want to move. You like living where you're living. You just would like a little bit of appreciation. And appreciation in business is shown through money. Not that, boys, but money. And so you think, I could do better. But I have to make it believable. I have to make it realistic that I'm willing to leave to have any sort of leverage whatsoever. The shopping around for a job is classic, is always fun. So I'm curious to see. Stop it, dogs. I'm curious to see what ends up happening with that situation. But most of the time when a company says, shop yourself, go out there and see what you got, see if there's anything for you, that's kind of their way of saying if you're easily replaced. We don't value you as much as you value you. That's the tough one. Then the Myles Garrett situation, which is also unique. Not going to do an extension. He's got 2 years left on his deal. No chance I'm going to do an extension there. He doesn't want to do an extension. He's told everybody he will not do an extension. And at the same time, I'm saying Myles Garrett is the best defensive end in the league. I don't want to lose Myles Garrett. At the same time, Myles Garrett can't go anywhere. He's got too much time left on his deal. And he's going to say, I'm going to hold out. I am going to hold out. I'm not going to play for this franchise any longer. And you get to say, nonsense. You have to. You're under contract. You got 2 years. You absolutely have to do it. And if you want to hold out, which he might say that he does, go ahead. He can hold out, and he will. But if he holds out for the whole year, in addition to all of the fines that he's going to accrue, then his contract doesn't toll. And given that he has 2 years on the deal, he would, by the way, at the end of that year, according to NFL rules, still have 2 years left on the deal. So you'd tell him, go to hell. And it's a tough face to wear. It's a tough mask to wear publicly that your best player is in an adversarial relationship and frustrated and not in camp. But lots of guys miss camp. You don't flinch, especially when they still have 2 years left on the deal. He can't go anywhere. He's not going to sit out the whole year. He'll threaten to. He can't sit out the whole year. Again, contract doesn't toll. 2 years left on your deal right now. You sit out for a full year. Guess how long you have left on your contract? 2 years. It's in perpetuity. You're screwed. And meanwhile, I'm finding you to hell and back. You've got no chance. So if I'm the Browns, I don't even listen to it. I would say to his agent and maybe to Miles directly, well, and this is what we just talked about with Purdy, if you think you can get a lot more, good luck to you, and shop yourself around. And here's what I'm going to tell you, the one caveat to shop yourself around. I want 3 number ones. So if a team says they're willing to part with 3 number ones, okay, maybe we'll move you. Maybe. But the conversation doesn't begin until you come back to me and say that you have found a team that is willing to part with 3 number ones. Maybe they will. He's a special talent. Maybe somebody's willing to give up 3 number ones. Myles Garrett's still young, so maybe you would. But that's the fun of being a GM or playing the role of a GM in the offseason, sitting here on your ass having fun before the draft. Would you do that? Would you say that? I think I would. I'd say, sure, get me 3 ones. And then we'll start talking. I don't know if it'll happen. But you would have permission to go shop yourself just in case, because then they're doing your work for you. That's a cool call to get. Hey, Jeff, it's so-and-so. We'll give you 3 ones. Oh, well, now we have a decision to make. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. We all want to have a happy hour. We would prefer it to be a healthy happy hour, and that's where my friends at Cornbread Hemp come into play. Your healthy happy hour, a natural and healthier way to experience a carefree moment. You can relax without doing the damage that alcohol sometimes inflicts. No, sir. Cornbread's THC gummies offer a balanced sense of happiness and relaxation. You can work it into your weekly routine. Maybe when you go to bed at night, calm the brain. You're not loopy. You're just feeling right. Go to sleep, get up, start your day feeling good. They are Farm Bill compliant, legal for adults over 21 years of age. Cornbread uses no harsh solvents, none of those pesticides and the like or anything like that. 10 milligrams of THC per gummy. That's for you. That's right. That's the way it works. If you're looking for a healthier way to enjoy a carefree moment, you have to give Cornbread Hemp a try. They've created a first ever USDA organic THC gummy, 100% legal. Special offer to Jeff Cameron Show listeners. You get 30% off your first order. Visit cornbreadhemp.com/warchant. Use promo code warchant at checkout. That's cornbreadhemp.com/warchant. Use code warchant for 30% off your first order. Cheers to a healthier happy hour. Look at those sexy graphics. Are you guys watching? If you're driving around town, you don't know what the hell I'm talking about. I'm talking about Above and Beyond. We welcome them into the fold. We talked about them earlier in the show too, but pretty cool, right? Yeah. Fellow Noles on board, jumping on. And if you want to know what it is they do, well, family owned and operated. They've got properties, Dunedin, Clearwater Beach. Tom and I are about to find out exactly how beautiful they are.
Yes, that's exactly right. We're going to find out for ourselves. Downtown Dunedin, Clearwater Beach, Clearwater. They even got some places in Palm Harbor, too, which catches my ear because that's where my family lives.
Yeah.
But, yeah, this is going to be a fun little trip. We're going to be down there in Clearwater Beach for a few days next week to launch this partnership. And Above and Beyond is an outstanding outfit from what I can tell so far. Again, you got Noles, a Nole grad running the show, and they'll be available to you via phone, as you can see on the screen, or via website. This is just a little preview. We'll give you a full rundown of how to reach out to them. But bookings, buddy, all the way through 2025 and 2026. You can book that far in advance, which is pretty cool.
aboveandbeyondvr.com. Aboveandbeyondvr.com. There you go. And yeah, we'll tell you more. This is just a wetting of the whistle. I like that phrase. I always have. Wetting of the whistle. You want to wet your whistle? Anyhow, aboveandbeyondvr.com. And we'll be down there taking in some spring training games. Actually, the way this was born is that this tremendous outfit, Above and Beyond, as you mentioned, Knoll family owned and operated, listens to the show, listens to the Jeff Cameron Show. I've heard me and Tom chatting it up for years and said, just like those other people, tried and true, and all the others that are on board with us, we feel like we should maybe do something with them. And those two guys love spring training baseball and have said openly many times that they would like to be down here for spring training baseball. And maybe you're one of those types of people too, and you need a place to stay, somewhere conveniently located where you can go betwixt and between all of the spring training sites, but do so while you sit in the lap of luxury. And they say, we have those places. Mm-hmm. We have them. Come stay with us and do all the things. So Tom and I said, we will. Pretty easy deal to work out there.
And they said, okay. And we said, I'll do it. And they said, well, then you should.
I would do it.
And I will. Well, when would you like to go? I would do it. And okay, when?
That would be hilarious. Somebody says, when would you like to go? I would do it. It'll be good. We're almost at that time, too, with spring training baseball. It takes about a full week to 10 days before you get games that resemble real games, where guys are really ramping up to get to where they need to be. And you get starting pitchers who start to throw, 60 pitch outings and the like, and start to really kind of ramp up. That first week, you get a lot of split squad stuff. You get a lot of guys that have no chance in hell of making the team. There are some rookies that people get excited about that get a little, speaking of wetting your whistle, they get a little taste. They get out there to see what it's like to put on that major league uniform. They get invited to camp, but they're not going to make the team. Everybody knows that. They're too young. But they get to see some live ABs. And if you're excited about your draft choices and things like that, you might want to see that. But really, if you want to see something that resembles more of a game, it's the week that's coming up that we're going to, where you start to get a little bit more of a real lineup. I know, again, there's split squads all the time, but really cool, like when you start to see, this is 6 of the 9 that are going to be out there for us. There's 5 of the 9 today that are going to be out there for us when the season starts. So that it's a little bit more realistic of an MLB game.
Well, there's good chance that we see DJ Stewart next week. We go catch Pirates and Red Sox. I mean, that's pretty cool. He's fighting for his life. So his major league 40-man roster life, I should say. So, that's going to be he's in a position where he needs to play as many innings as he can every day so that the organization vets whether or not they're going to take him. So I would imagine you don't want to send him away in a split squad. You probably want to keep him close to the compound, Bradenton. So hopefully we do get to see him early next year.
Yeah, non-roster invitee, and he's hoping to make the team. And a lot of guys do. A lot of veteran players do, too. They know they've handled it before. They've been in these pressure situations. They know what spring training's about. I think the best situation you can be in if you're like a DJ Stewart, who for those of you, you don't know, of course, DJ played here, and he was tremendous and a really good guy. That's just an aside. Really kind of a fun guy to cover. Everybody liked DJ Stewart. But here's a guy with real pop in his bat. He's a minus defender, but he's got pop in his bat. And, you're always looking for guys with power that you don't have to pay a lot. You really want guys like him because if he pops, if he hits, if he goes out and does what Santana did for the Pirates last year, and then at the All-Star break, you've got an asset you can ship off for either picks or back into your bullpen guys or whatever you're looking for. And he fits the mold perfectly because I think they know in that stadium, he can pull the ball and hit some home runs. He's got that power. He is going to feast on spring training pitching. So if I'm him, I'm loving this because guys are just working on the zone, and you'll get. I mean, he's already hit a couple balls out that I've watched for Pittsburgh, and they were just grooved. Now I'm not taking anything away from him, but he's going to get pitches like that to drive, so it's a win-win. If you're his agent, you're like, go there. They need a lefty who can go yard in that park, and you're going to get pitches to hit. Let's go.
Yeah, I got to see he played in about 130 games with New York the last 2 years. and the first stretch in 2023 was very, very productive. 58 games. He had 11 bombs in 58 games, and not all those are starts. It's 160 ABs, and he hit 11 home runs. That projects nicely over a full season. His ops was 840. But then last year, I don't know if they tinkered with something, or it's baseball, it's really hard, or they found a hole in his swing, but he hit 177 in 74 games. So, DJ has been very, very hot and cold. He even started his career with Baltimore, where he was drafted in the first round.
Yeah.
And he opts 890 in his first 20 games in the pros. I mean, again, that's a tremendous number. If you're a batting average person, that's essentially like hitting 285 or 290, if maybe even over 300 if you're getting that close to 900 in ops. So DJ, for being a legend here, has been up and down in the pro ranks. But when he gets hot, he'll be the guy that MLB Tonight talks about. Boy, DJ Stewart's on a heater the last couple of weeks, and hopefully he does so with your Buccos. No
sport reveals the difficulty and or differences between being a very, very good, maybe even elite college athlete to pro athlete quite the way pro baseball does. Baseball exposes, you think about this. If you're a dominant collegiate basketball player, you may not be a dominant professional basketball player, but there aren't too many guys that go from being, a first round caliber player in college, a guy that would get looked at as a first round pick, to a complete and utter bust out of the league 2-3 years. Like it doesn't really happen in basketball. You may be an end of the bench guy. You may not be the prolific scorer they thought you were going to be. You may end up being a guy who goes from averaging 27 in college to 12 in the NBA. And you're like, that's a little disappointing. All that's true. But man, baseball's the sport where you see guys get picked in the top 5, top 10, never make it to the bigs. Like never even get into the league, that end up, there's a hole in the swing and nobody noticed it in college because the pitching wasn't effective enough to continually pinpoint that hole. And they get into the minor leagues and they're watching film and they're with a wooden bat and the pitching's better. And all of a sudden that call up to the big league GM who made the pick, or the player personnel director, and they go, he can't play. He can't play. He's been down here 2 years. He's hitting 217. He can't play. We're screwed. It's crazy how baseball does that.
This is where I shouldn't be so reductive to Keith Law and people like him, because they do a wonderful, wonderful job. But they'll tell you that your farm sucks. I'm like, you don't know that. Or they'll tell you that your farm's great. You don't know that. I mean, like it might be, if it's great, the lower end is good. If it sucks, the upper end is average to above average. But you don't know. Like the Mets don't have pitching in their farm system. Well, then Jacob deGrom comes out of nowhere and he becomes the best pitcher in baseball. Like,
right.
Stuff like that happens all the time in the minors. To your point about unexpected, like how many guys have been can't miss prospects in your lifetime with your organization, my lifetime with my organization, and they climb through the ranks. Everybody from Lasto Blasto with the Mets to Jason Hayward with the Braves. Jason Hayward was supposed to be the next surefire Hall of Famer. He hits a home run in his first at bat. Lastings Millage does the same. He hits 2 home runs in his first game. I mean, now Hayward has had a better career than Lasto Blasto. Don't get me wrong, but these surefire things, man, there's no such thing. That you have to get them up to the bigs. They have to get 3-4 starts under their belt if they're a pitcher, or 100 ABs, 150 ABs as a young player, and then you'll see. And then you'll see whether or not they're actually good enough to play or not.
It's weird too, because I think it's built around the mentality, the psychology. I think that because it's a game of failure and not just bigger, stronger, faster. Because if you're bigger, stronger, faster in football, you're going to be bigger, stronger, faster. That doesn't go away. I don't have to be a Mensa to be bigger, stronger, faster. I just have to be bigger, stronger, faster. Find a way to use my unbelievable speed, size, and strength, guys. Find a way. It's just easier. If I'm a prolific hitter and I go through a 1 for 57 spell and I lose confidence, how do I bounce back from that? And you are going to go through one of those stretches, unless you're just an Albert Pujols freak, which they do exist, but they're outliers. You're going to go through stretches like that, and not every guy can rebound from that.
No, that's the whole thing. When they adjust to you, do you have an adjustment for their adjustment? And there are players, I mean, I remember the segments that Cowherd would do about Yasiel Puig. Well, he's better than Trout. He's better than Ohtani. I'm like, well, you shut the F up. You don't know that. He's had an unbelievable start to his career, and he was a good player. But you know what? He was out of the bigs by the age 28, and he was
very quick, yeah.
I mean, everybody always needs to pump the brakes on that. Just because you have your farm system is like having a great hand, a starting hand in poker. It means that you got a real good shot to win. But a great starting hand in poker doesn't do jack for you in terms of guaranteeing the victory.
Right. You'd prefer it. You'd prefer to have that than the latter. But it doesn't guarantee anything long term. You're absolutely right. Well, enjoy the weekend, everybody. Like I said, you'll hear from us down south in Florida, in Clearwater, over the weekend. We'll be back with you on Monday and Tuesday doing the shows from down there as well. In the interim, go Noles. Hey, maybe the miracle happens. They beat Duke on the road in basketball. It's not going to happen. Be good, everybody. Peace.